The MoneroTopia guest segment is sponsored by Cake Wallet. Store, send, receive, and exchange your Monero and Bitcoin safely on iOS and Android too. Cake Wallet is open source, and you always control your own keys.
All right, Aaron, what's going on, man?
Hey, how are you?
Good. You got it. We can't see your face, but that's okay. It looks cool.
Well, I'm in the home of MoneroTopia. I'm in Mexico City right now.
Oh shit. Okay, nice.
So I'm on my way to Acapulco. So we decided to stop by here for a day and a half before headed over there. So yeah, I don't have a very good setup. I do apologize for that.
No worries. Your sound is good. Your sound is good.
So, but
that's great that you're going to an Acapulco. That's cool. And I think Arctic Mine is going too. You guys gotta hang out.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited. I'm going to get an opportunity to speak, and of course, we're going to talk about the gospel of privacy coins, and why, in fact, all these people are celebrating this election stuff, and people seem to be excited about crypto in general. And I took a look at this stablecoin bill that they just put out. It's worse than the Gillibrand bill from last year. It's horrible for algorithmic stablecoins. It's horrible for DeFi. It's horrible for privacy. It's horrible for KYC, AML. So just because Trump said we're not going to have a CBDC, a bank issued stablecoin is indistinguishable from a CBDC. So we have to really start pushing privacy.
Yeah, when I was trying to explain it to my family members last night, actually, we had a little get together. I got a lot of thoughts there in general. I mean, they know me for years. I've been talking about all this stuff. They just obviously they see it coming to fruition, but they still think I am like crazy in that I'm concerned about like total dystopia, and I'm just like trying to ring the bell. Like, guys, I'm telling you. I'm like, just like I told you early about Bitcoin and explained it and said all these things were going to happen, just like I told you about COVID, how it was all BS, and you'll realize like we're on the precipice here. Like, this is going to get bad fast, and there's no turning back once we hit a kind of the point of no return.
Yeah, it's going to happen real fast. I mean, and ironically, Biden was incompetent. If Biden was more competent than his executive order that he had authorizing a CBDC and cracking down on crypto, then they would have gotten a lot further. But he was very incompetent. But unfortunately, this coordinated effort now around stable coins, we've got our crypto AI czar and everybody else pushing this. And so somehow people are now celebrating stable coins while they were previously crying about CBDCs. They're egging on now this $3 trillion industry of stablecoins. Well, I mean, do you want programmable, trackable, censorable stablecoins? Like, what? This is really not a win at all. And I'll do it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this now, but I'm going to do an article about this and explain what's in this bill. I encourage everybody to read the bill, or at least run the bill through AI if you don't want to read it. It's a 57-page bill, and it's not great at all. I mean, it's going to put private stable coins either out of business, or it's going to make the reporting burden. You're going to have to report monthly to the Federal Reserve, and you're going to have to meet all of these thresholds and all of these requirements. And again, how did we go from peer-to-peer digital cash with no third parties, no central banks, to the pinnacle of crypto being a programmable surveillance token issued by a commercial bank regulated by the Federal Reserve? I just don't know how it happened, but we gotta.
So
this is why
I know you don't want to spend too much time on it, but just so I because I haven't really paid close attention. So what will the future of stablecoins be? It's going to be a few like what's going to happen to Tether and these? Are they basically going to be U.S. run, cryptos?
Yeah. So either Tether and USDC are going to go away, or they will probably, or more than likely, they'll be merged with a big bank. So JP Morgan Chase will acquire Tether, and it will become the stable coin. Or depending upon how big of the problem with this is on the one hand, I don't like bank issued stable coins. On the other hand, the stable coins that we do have are scams. And so this is the bit of a trouble with it, right? Because Tether's Tether's likely to have serious issues at some point, but now that their last investor who put in $600 million and the firm that manages all of their treasuries is run by Howard Lutnick, who's now Trump's commerce secretary. So this is one of those things where I suspect Tether will get bailed out or merged into an existing player. But what it's really bad for are algorithmic stablecoins. So this is, and it's going to have a big negative impact on DeFi. So that's the more troublesome part of this at this point in time. So, and all of these stablecoins have more KYC, more AML. I mean, we really should be going to remove the Bank Secrecy Act. The Bank Secrecy Act and all of this.
Yes, that's the root. That's the root of their power to basically create a financial surveillance system.
It's the root of the power. It started in 1970, and it started, presumably to crack down on organized crime. And so this is the thing with all of these bills. So I always like to look at, well, what's the source of this? Where did all of this come from? Where did the regulation begin? Mm-hmm. And then how well is it doing versus its stated goal? And so I think you could make the argument that, people talk about the cartels and everything else. I mean, I think the Bank Secrecy Act it probably led to the acceleration and the expansion of organized crime and probably led to an opening for the Mexican cartels that all of our politicians like to complain about. And it's done nothing. I mean, if you look at the actual number of criminals and people involved in money laundering and illicit activities that are actually caught using KYC AML, it's almost nothing compared to the cost. This is another one of these classic things where it's security theater. Every citizen gets punished. Every citizen has their rights removed. You have all of this now friction that makes it hard to innovate in the payment space, and it hasn't solved any of what they stated the underlying problem was at all. So we need to go back and look at all of these things. I'll do a kind of a comprehensive thing on, Bank Secrecy Act all the way to Patriot Act, and then how they've ramped up the Patriot Act and through COVID and everything else. And it's just absolutely absurd. We've thrown away the Fourth Amendment. And I don't know when it happened. I mean, because privacy is a right. It should be a right. It is a right. It's actually in the Constitution. And yet it's been eroded since 1970, and nobody seems to want to talk about it. The narrative has switched from, we should assume privacy to we should assume that we're all guilty and that everything that we do is a crime and that everything should be tracked. And I don't that shift happened very gradually, but now it's, somehow getting even worse despite the complete lack of success of any of these surveillance laws in stopping any crime.
Right. Like, I don't know how it's even constitutional, right? With regard in considering the Fourth Amendment, like, has it been, I have never really looked at the case law and the history of the Bank Secrecy Act. I mean, has it even been tested on Supreme Court level?
Yeah, I don't know. Then that's what I'm going to dig into as well. I haven't done the full deep dive. This is one of those things where it might be just that, well, in the 1970s, no people, they manufactured that we had this big organized crime thing, and then this thing got passed through in an emergency, and nobody really who was there in 1970 to challenge the Bank Secrecy Act. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I suspect there probably is a big opportunity.
We got to work together more, man. You're doing amazing work. Excited to do this, privacy mini tech conference at PorcFest with you. But yeah, would love to continue to work with you on trying to take action to, get things let's get Trump's attention on eliminating the Bank Secrecy Act. I put a stake in the ground raised a flag a couple of weeks ago saying I want to work on getting the BIT license in New York. I think now's a good time to get that done. I think that could happen. And then in general, just trying to make it be known to exchanges and all crypto businesses in the U.S. that it's completely legal to use Monero, whether as an individual buying things peer-to-peer or as a business accepting it, using it. Let me quickly, if you mind, can I quickly get your opinion on this? I don't know if we talked about it, but obviously you're aware of this executive order that Trump put out, and yeah, you're aware that it essentially eliminated the executive order that Biden had put out that he was using to kind of attack crypto. But do you agree that it basically can be interpreted as saying it's perfect what Trump is saying here in this executive order, that it's perfectly legal to use Monero and for businesses to use Monero, and in fact, we're promoting the use and adoption of these tools. Would you agree that that's effectively what it says here, or am I being overzealous?
I think that it does say that for right now. I mean, again, this is before. I'm very worried about what Congress is doing, but I think that his rescinding of 14067 and the stuff that he's put out so far, I don't read anything in there that prohibits privacy coins.
Right.
And so right now, yeah, I mean, it's wide open season, more than it certainly ever has been. And I haven't heard him talk about this issue much. I mean, although you do hear them talk about, again, it gets bipartisan support, this terrorism and money laundering thing. But, I will say, working to our advantage is the fact that Doge going into the Treasury and finding that the Treasury was approving expenditures without any control at all. I mean, if you basically submitted something to the Treasury, it was automatically accepted, and that the Treasury's been funding terrorism. I mean, we talk about this all the time, and I always say in my talk that the largest, funder of terrorism and war and all these violent things is the federal government. And now, though, thanks to Doge, we're seeing this explicitly. And I think we should be hammering on that fact. Like, we should have public transparency for government, and we should have privacy for the people, which is in line with the Constitution. And I think we've got a good run up right now. So, but I think we need to educate people. I think, and I would like to work with you on this. This is the one. Being part of the Brownstone Institute is very helpful, because when I write stuff for Brownstone Institute, people read it, which is good. And Brownstone was pretty influential on mandates and COVID and everything else. Actually had a pretty big impact on a lot of the people that are now in the administration, which is good. But I want to start taking a step back, because a lot of the folks that maybe have been radicalized because of COVID are still not very aware of how money works or any of these issues that we're talking about. So I'm thinking about doing I always say this, but I want to do a series of basic articles where I try to really take a step back and walk through, the basics of privacy as it relates to money and the Bank Secrecy Act. And I would do another thing on the SEC. I mean, the thing for me with the SEC is that, I want to be able to have an app on my phone. And if I go to a restaurant, I'm like, oh, I like this restaurant. I'd like to be able to buy $50 worth of equity in the restaurant, right? We should have a situation where, or if you wanted to open a lemonade stand, my daughter had a business selling slime on TikTok when she was 10. And she could have used some working capital, like $10,000 to $15,000 worth of working capital. And, you should be able to go to an app and in a half an hour or less, configure it so that people can actually invest in that. And what holds this back is the SEC. And the SEC,
that feels like that's what the doors have been blown off with the meme coins. Yeah, I remember in the early 2000s, I was thinking this idea of people stock. This is before crypto or anything. Wouldn't it be great essentially if you can invest in people? And obviously there are all these rules and reasons why, right, that wouldn't be possible. But hasn't Trump basically said, we're allowed to create our own coins for anything at this point?
I mean, that's one way of looking at it. Although on the other hand, it's kind of
if Trump can pump and dump a Trump coin as he's elected president, your daughter should be able to sell Lemonade coin and raise money sell equity in her lemonade business.
Well,
that sounds a lot less scammy than fucking Trump coin. And now Malay, I think, launched one, right?
Yeah.
So now all these politicians are scamming us, literally scamming us. Not even there's no indirectness to it. It's I'm selling scams to the world. We're pumping and dumping it.
No, I would say that's how it should be interpreted. But the weird thing with these things is, we had this Jobs Act under Obama, and everybody was all excited because it added these crowdfunding rules, and people thought this was going to apply to being able to raise money for startups. But then when you look and dig into it, it's like, well, yeah, you can raise up to this amount, but you still have to go through and fill out all the paperwork. And by the way, unless you can get a broker dealer to be willing to actually sell those shares, then you actually can't do it. And it turns out the acceptance rate by broker dealers to accept a crowdfunding is a lower acceptance rate than getting venture capital. So the whole thing turned out to be a complete mess. And so then you have these sites, these crowdfunding sites, where it's like, okay, I can go to a site and somebody wants to fund a movie, and then I can have these tiers where I can put in $1,000, or maybe if I put in $10,000, I get an autographed reel or something or whatever. But I can't a Kickstarter, but I can't own any of the upside. Like, how stupid is this? So I hope that this isn't one of those things where what happens is, if it's a blatant Ponzi like a meme coin, it's fair game. But if somebody could invest in it and make a profit, it's still illegal. And I mean, so I can see that happening based on the track record here.
Yeah, no,
but
I know.
hope so.
But I do think people are just going to start doing that now. I mean, I really feel like Trump blew the doors off with Trump coin, because I just don't see how you would interpret that as being equivalent to, right? I mean, he's basically selling equity in himself. It's Trump coin. It's people stock, right? And there was no SEC involved. It's like you could buy, interest in Trump, in the Trump brand, of which he owns the largest portion.
Well, related to that, and this is one of the things I've been focusing on in my last articles about this, even though Trump rescinded Biden's executive order, he has not rescinded the lawfare under it. So there are still people that are suffering with these SEC cases, or Roger Ver and Ian Freeman and Roman Storm and others that are actually still facing criminal charges for stuff that technically, now that executive order has been rescinded, this stuff's not valid anymore. And there are a lot of these cases. And it's like, I actually went to Ian Freeman's appeal hearing in Boston a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to go to Roger Ver's motion to dismiss hearing in LA, which is tentatively on March the 10th. And I'm going to meet up with Roman Storm when I'm out there. And it's just like, so it's weird, because on the one hand, it's like, hey, we've got this golden age of crypto, and isn't it going to be great? And people are doing meme coins. And then on the other hand, all of these OGs that made all of this possible are still facing prison sentences and having their businesses destroyed. So we got to fix that. I mean, we should have a Biden crypto lawfare amnesty. They need to just drop that stuff, because those cases, those people were presumed guilty, and then they went out and tried to manufacture evidence. I mean, this has been the case over and over again. Ian Freeman had a letter from an attorney saying that he could operate these ATMs without a money transmitter license. Roger hired lawyers and accountants and thought he paid his taxes to the best of what the best professionals knew how to do. Dragon Chain, same thing. They had a utility token. They had a finished product that they spun out of Disney and were actually selling utility tokens. Then in 2018, the SEC came after them, and that's been ongoing now for 7 years. And so it's tragic that this is still going on. And I think what the best approach might be is to take all of the cases, kind of like what Trump did with J6. With J6,
yeah. Especially for this, right? I mean, because here we're talking about, like, literally crypto entrepreneurs, right? These are the original guys who understood it before anybody, who started using it for the purposes it was meant to be used. Were entrepreneurial about it, figured out how to create these things before anybody else did. They should be rewarded, not punished for these efforts.
I agree. So hopefully we can get some momentum going around that, and maybe get an amnesty thing, because Trump originally was going to evaluate the J6ers on a one-on-one basis. And I guess, his quote was, the Trump quote was, "Fuck it, pardon them all." That was actually what Trump said. We need this with our crypto friends. And
oh my God. Yeah.
Because they're the heroes on this too. So.
Yeah, and you're doing great work with getting information out about that, right? A lot of people just don't know, like, what happened and who these people are and why they deserve justice. It's because they were entrepreneurs on the edge, libertarians that don't believe we should be thrown in jail for using cryptocurrency.
Yep.
Let me get a practical advice from you, though. Like, so with regards to this executive order, and I'm looking at it, I'm saying this clearly says to me and announces to the world and to citizens of the United States that it's perfectly legal for you to use Monero peer-to-peer, that people have the right to transact peer-to-peer, that businesses can use it. What do you think would be like a good next step, right? 'Cause, I mean, do we need to get an opinion from the administration? Do we need like a letter from Trump's attorney saying, yes, in fact, this would include, this is what it would mean in terms of privacy coins? Like, how do we practically turn his executive order into something we can rely on to now then go and advise people and businesses and exchanges? It's Monero time.
I don't know. I would always, in this instance, I would ask for forgiveness and not for permission. In other words, if you can make the interpretation based on the executive order, then make that interpretation.
Well, I'm fine with doing that, right? That's why XMR Bazaar, like my understanding is everything I do is completely legal, right? Not even like, I don't even see any grayness. But if I want to approach, Coinbase and I want to, say you guys should be adding Monero, there shouldn't be any hesitation like, oh, we're getting pressure from the banks, but like, well, who's your bank then? Because they need to see this executive order. Like, what is going on here? What's the miscommunication? So it's like, I want to use this as a tool to get all these businesses that might have like some reluctance to using private coins to say there actually should be none. And if you're saying, no, I have some because of this reason, well, show me why, because that reason shouldn't exist.
I mean, it's certainly harder to get an opinion letter from the government or somebody explicitly stating that you can do something because, what's in it for them to do that? But you can make your argument, your legal argument based on the executive order. So, I mean, if you're pushing back, now my experience, the problem with this is it's with these exchanges, it's all about volume, right? I mean, the problem is, think about it. They listed Trump coin, and in theory, there's no reason why they should have listed Trump coin, right? There's been no policy change at that point. Trump wasn't even in office. He hadn't even been inaugurated yet, and they put the coin up, right? Well, I mean, in theory, that coin was against the law based on what the previous administration had been done, and nothing had actually rescinded that. So my guess is, and my experience with these things is that if there's enough volume, they'll do it, right? I'm not going to speak about these individual ones. I mean, I understand with Coinbase, a lot of this is pay to play, and then a lot of it is all volume driven, right? And so I doubt why the reason that they're holding off at this point is necessarily regulatory. And I hate bull markets because of this, because now Monero has to compete with Malay coin. Now you've got to compete with, whatever these other coins are, and these coins do huge volumes, even if only for a short period of time. That's the problem to solve. We need to get more people interested. We need to increase the volume. And I think there's a general.
Well, I know. I mean, I keep bringing it back to New York, right? So whether that means eliminating the bit license, convincing Coinbase, or eliminating bit license, and then Kraken moves in. But at the end of the day, there's millions of people here that live in New York that are already using crypto, that are already buying their shit coins, that have been buying Litecoin back in 2017, but they never to this day have had the ability to buy Monero on a centralized exchange from their bank account. Even to this day, right? They can't do it. They have to go buy some other crypto, swap it into whatever they want on, let's like Cake Wallet or whatever it is. There's no way to have your bank account. And, that's what people want. That's what they expect. So, yes, they'll be competing against Malay coin and Trump coin, but I do think it would give an avenue for noobs who've been hearing about Monero for years to be like, oh, I'll grab some of that now that I can grab it just as easily as I can grab Trump coin on Coinbase.
So the issue with this is you have to kind of go with smaller exchanges and then get more volume. And then as you show more volume, then you can get to the larger exchanges. It might not go Coinbase right away, but it might be an opportunity to go for some other exchanges and then build into it. I think that's probably the problem with this is, and this is the problem with, I dealt with this a lot because I spent a lot of time with Ravencoin, and it was an open source project that had no fundraise. And so the problem is that a lot of these, I've heard some amazing stories, by the way, about some of these exchanges and listings where it's like so particularly some of these overseas exchanges, like, all right, well, if you give the guy $50,000 who works there personally, he'll push you up in the queue, maybe, but nothing will be in writing. And then you get to that point, and then hopefully they add you, and hopefully that guy doesn't get fired between the time that you paid him to get the listing and then the thing gets actually added, right? And so this practice of having to pay is challenging for open source community projects that don't have a fundraise. This is just a legit challenge. So you've got to find, are there any friendly exchanges, centralized exchanges that are ideologically actually aligned? I mean, that's the other
Kraken. Kraken is, but they're not in New York because of the bit license.
So is Kraken? I don't want to speak out of turn.
Kraken's pretty damn big. It's not,
No, Kraken's big. There's been a lot of there's been changes, and I know
Kraken was more involved, my understanding, in the Trump campaign, way more than Coinbase, and Coinbase only jumped on at the end, is what I'm hearing, and it was actually Kraken from the earlier days was very pro-Trump. So even that big event where they launched Trump Coin, it was sponsored by Kraken that night at that big crypto ball.
Are you serious? That's hilarious. I didn't know that was sponsored by Kraken.
Yes. Jesse Powell, I think he's has good access into the administration.
Jesse Powell's awesome. I know he's not the CEO of it anymore, but I know Jesse Powell is personally, he's an OG, and he's absolutely aligned.
That's amazing.
So what about Genesis? Gemini.
The twins, right? I think a lot of this is these guys were Zcash people,
Yeah.
It was kind of like Zcash, the Zcash Silicon Valley crowd were trying to keep Monero off of exchanges because they didn't want the competition. I think it comes down to that.
That's just ridiculous. They've got an exchange. It's like they've got Bitcoin. They have all these other coins. Why would you?
The demand is clearly there for Monero, and even in the earlier days, it was one of the there was clear demand, and at that point they didn't list it. Why didn't Coinbase list it? Was it because they were worried about regulations, or was it because they didn't want to help Monero?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that either.
Yeah. But I think now is the time to change it, and. We'll work on that. Maybe we could get somebody from the Trump administration to come talk at MoneroTopia PorkFest. How about that? You think we could get some Trump administration crypto people to come talk? That would be amazing.
We could try it. It's absolutely worth a shot. And I asked Lynn Ulbricht if she's going. She doesn't know for sure, but she's going to try to make it. And obviously, my original goal with this PorkFest thing was I was hoping Roger and Ross and Ian would all be there, and still working towards that as well. But yeah, I think it is something that we could pull off, because at PorkFest 2 years ago, RFK Jr. spoke, Vivek spoke. It was it's a pretty influential conference. There were 3,000 people there. And by the way, for those who don't know much about,
get the people excited.
PorkFest. So I've been a part of the Free State Project since 2009. So I've been there for like 16 years. And PorkFest is short for, as the earlier conversation has nothing to do with pork. It's Porcupine Freedom Festival. That's actually what PorkFest is short for. And it's been in the same place for forever. I think this is the 22nd year, something like that, of the event. It's in Lancaster, New Hampshire. It's at this campground, beautiful campground. And early on, it was like 20 dudes outside a campfire.
Oh, shit, I could see me in this picture.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
So the original PorkFest was like 20 guys, typical libertarian. You can imagine what libertarians would be like for a week around a campfire, having conversations about, 50 Shades of Libertarian. And it's grown since then as the Free State Project has grown. And so I actually became the chair of the Free State Project for a while, around 2013, 2015. And so early on, it was like, it was mostly dudes. And then it was mostly young people. And then actually it's completely blossomed. So it's gone from like 20 people to 3,000 people, I think is the largest event. I think this is actually the largest freedom event now in the United States. And it's been broken up and kind of decentralized in a way where there are a bunch of tracks with a bunch of programming going on throughout the campground. So you have the main pavilion, which you can see in this picture here. There's this in the background of the picture. That's where the main talks happen. But there are, at any one moment in time, probably 30 talks or events or happenings going on throughout the campground. And
this is just to give people this is just one small part of this is the where people go and watch the main stage, and then this field is kind of like the main assembly area for the entire event. But the property is vast, and it goes back, and it's a full campground, and you can go and you can rent a campsite there, and you can pitch a tent, you can stay in an RV, you can team up with other people, and everybody that has these tents pitched and these RVs set up, the vast majority of them are also there selling things, whatever it is they want to sell, goods, services, and most of them are accepting cryptocurrencies because they're very libertarian-minded people that before crypto even existed, right? They're accepting gold coins, and crypto had its early days there, and so Monero is organically accepted at a lot of these stands. People are aligned with it, more than willing. They'll accept Dash, they'll accept whatever. I mean, these are they're not there just putting on a show. These are people that actually believe in these ideas and are actively there selling goods and services for crypto. It's actually quite amazing.
And actually to that point, so to take a step back, I would argue that in many ways, the birth of the use of cryptocurrency started at these Free State Project events. And so to give you kind of a timeline, Ian Freeman and his business partner, Mark Edge, run Free Talk Live, which is a syndicated radio show around the country and it's been around for 25 years now. And Ian first started talking about Bitcoin in 2010 on his show. And that's where Roger Ver learned about Bitcoin. Roger Ver learned about Bitcoin from Ian Freeman on Free Talk Live.
It's amazing.
And so Bitcoin became a staple of Free State Project events starting in 2011. I heard Roger talk about it for the first time at a Liberty Forum, which is another Free State Project event in 2012. But I think a lot of people were introduced to, myself and others, Jeffrey Tucker, Bruce Fenton, literally learned about Bitcoin from these events. And Roger
it caught like wildfire, right? Because you just had all these libertarians that have been waiting for digital cash to exist, and they're like, "Oh my god!" talking about it, trying to figure it out. Can this be?
Right? No, it caught absolute wildfire. So so Roger actually gave everybody Bitcoin that attended PortFest, I think in 2012 or something like that. And there's something at PortFest called Agora Alley, which is this just big, long, lane of in the campground where people set up and have not only tents, but people bring food trucks and just sell any of a variety of different things. So nobody is using fiat. So this is an entire week-long event of 3,000 people engaging in voluntary exchange using alternative currencies. That has been a hallmark of this thing from the very beginning. You may be familiar with the guy, he's a Bitcoin maxi, but his name is Mandrick, and he's very popular for selling baklava. But he also used to, at PortFest, operate in this big tent. He used to sell what were called bacon weaves, and so it was just this egg and bacon creation or whatever. Well, this guy sold all of the baklava, all of these bacon and egg things, for Bitcoin only in 2012. I mean, there are people that have literally retired based on selling goods and services for 1 week.
Yeah, the guy's worth like $100 million off of selling freaking egg sandwiches at PortFest.
Yeah, that's not even an exaggeration, right? And so the energy of 2012. So I met Roger, I met Eric Voorhees. I remember at PortFest in 2012, 2013. I met Vitalik at PortFest before he started Ethereum. I met Lynn Ulbricht at PorcFest, I think 2014, and then she's been there like every year
God
since.
damn, I wish I was there in those early years, man. I was, I don't know. It wasn't on my radar, PorcFest. Didn't even know. When I first learned about it was when I got into Bitcoin and I saw like some Bitcoiners were going there. I was like, I got to go check this out. And I think the first one I went to was 2018 or 2019. And I went with the intent of I wanted to see if people were accepting Monero there, because if they weren't, I would be like, well, we're not. There's something wrong here, right? And sure enough, a lot of people like even when I went like then 2018, like people knew about Monero, were willing to accept Monero. I was like, okay, all right, this is cool.
Oh yeah, no, and it was always the original energy. I remember the energy from 2012. What I want to do is I want to replicate the energy of 2012 because obviously,
yes,
cryptocurrencies has kind of lost its way, right? Like to a certain degree, there was more that the energy around, hey, we're using this not just as an alternative currency, but this is how we defeat these central banks. This is how we defeat central bank tyranny, stop all the war. That was the vibe. And that vibe's been kind of lost a little bit. I mean, and certainly people weren't using Bitcoin as much. In fact, I want to say good news, by the way. I just retweeted this today, but the Free State Project was taking Bitcoin all the way back in 2011, 2012, but stopped taking Bitcoin right around 2017 because of the transaction fees. But this year, they're using now payments, and they're now taking multiple cryptocurrencies, including Monero.
Sweet.
So you can buy your PorcFest ticket using Monero, and so that is awesome.
Fantastic.
That is just huge. That is just huge.
Yeah, and just to get the information out there, guys. So this is happening June 16th through the 22nd, 2025. This basically is it's going to be a MoneroTopia at PorcFest. So if you could see, like Aaron's saying, this barn back here, that's the main stage for PorcFest itself. Then you'll see on the left there's like a tent. We are going to have a tent basically out here on the right-hand side where that empty spot is. That's right. Am I wrong, Aaron? I think it's in this area is where the privacy coin, privacy tech, freedom tech tent, MoneroTopia PorcFest tent will be. And to attend, all you have to do is show up at PorcFest. You got to get a ticket to PorcFest. You're gonna have to figure out where you're staying. You could stay off-site if you're not into the whole camping thing, or the best way to really experience PorcFest, team up with some people, get an RV, you come, you rent a spot. And yeah, obviously you don't need a ticket for MoneroTopia at PorcFest itself. It's just a tent that's there. You could show up. You just have to get into PorcFest, get a ticket for PorcFest. And it's a week-long event. It's very intense. It starts off slow, like the hardcore people show up early and stay the whole week. But it doesn't really escalate and start to peak until like Thursday. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Obviously, Aaron, we'll figure this out. I mean, Aaron's hardcore. He wants to basically do talks all week from the get-go, which, yeah, if he wants to do that, I'm sure that's what we'll end up doing. But things will really ramp up Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it will be like you're at MoneroTopia. It will be, I'm sure it's going to end up being quite a few speakers we'll have panels. Just because there's so much talent there that we could just bring into and get them to come up on stage as well. So it's gonna be pretty amazing. And then we're teaming up with MoneroCon because this is falling at the same time as MoneroCon. So when it peaks, that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday is when MoneroCon is going to be taking place in Prague. Obviously, guys, if you're able to go to MoneroCon, I highly recommend you do it. MoneroCon is amazing, right? It's the seminal Monero event of the year, MoneroTopia as well. But like, if you're US based and you can't make it to MoneroCon, come to PorcFest. You will not be disappointed. It's an experience, even without MoneroTopia being there. PorcFest itself is an amazing experience. And now with everything Aaron's saying, that we want this to be where privacy coins peak at the conference, it's going to be a moment you're not going to want to miss if you're able to make it. And we're going to team up with MoneroCon, so we'll even have the MoneroCon talks playing at the tent. And it's actually timing wise will work out pretty well because they're in Europe. So it'll be like, super early over here. So maybe every morning as you're drinking your gratuitous coffee or you're buying your egg sandwich with Monero, you come sit and watch the MoneroCon talks from like, I don't know, probably be from like 7 in the morning to like 11 a.m. You'll be able to see Luke Parker giving his update on full chain membership proofs. That's what I'm excited about too, Aaron, is that we'll get people throughout PorcFest that are like into crypto privacy coins. They can come watch the MoneroCon talks that they'll have access to, right? They'll be able to watch Luke Parker give them the update in real time because like Monero is going to be peaking at this moment too, guys, right? So not only is PorcFest peaking with privacy coins, but Monero in terms of its actual tech is going to be like kind of reaching new heights as Luke is giving announcements on that. So should be amazing. And if you want to get involved and you want to attend, just start by going to the PorcFest website and figuring out how you're going to get to New Hampshire for this week and basically grab your ticket with Monero.
Yeah, grab the ticket with Monero, and it is going to be a phenomenal. And if you've been there before, because I talked to a lot of people that if you're thinking about it, if you're on the fence, this is going to be the event because I'm telling you that there's a lot of momentum. This is like peaking for Monero, but let's talk last year. Last year wasn't as great as the year before. There was a bit of a drop off. We had some bad weather, whatever. Wasn't the best. But what Doug and I can both tell you is that because we both did an informal survey, and maybe in part it's because of our efforts as well. But the most used cryptocurrencies at PorcFest last year were privacy coins. So this is already starting to take hold. And so now we are just going to blow this up well beyond. And I think with Cake Wallet involved, and I'm excited. I'm super excited about Cake Wallet. I see that Vic is in the chat, but I am thrilled about Cake Wallet because I've been doing these workshops all around the country, and Cake Wallet is a great way to onboard new people to Monero and to privacy coins. And so we're going to be able to onboard merchants at Agora Alley. We're going to be able to onboard people in the tent itself. And, and who knows, there's a pretty good shot we're going to have Ross Ulbricht. And then I personally, I'm going to be fighting with every bit of energy that I have to make sure we can get Roger Veer there as well. But like, this is going to be, I think, the beginning of a renaissance for privacy coins. And we will look back at this just as I'm talking about how 2012 to me was like, that was the birth of crypto to me, in terms of adoption and people really starting to use it in the Liberty community. I think people are going to look back at 2025 PorcFest as being when we really started getting real adoption for privacy coins in Monero.
100%. And, we need to make clear this event wouldn't be possible but for the generous sponsorship from Cake Wallet. We're hoping to get a couple of other main stage sponsors so we can fully cover the cost. But this comes with a big cost here because we have to rent one of these main tents. But well worth the investment, I think. And so tremendous thank you to Cake Wallet. As usual, they stepped up without hesitation. They they trusted us. They understand the vision here. So Cake is early adopter, first sponsor, just like they were the first sponsor of the MoneroTopia conference without hesitation. So tremendous thank you to Cake and Vic. And I don't know if they'll be able to attend in any way. Because I'm sure they're going to be, the team is going to MoneroCon, the devs are going to MoneroCon, but there might be some people. Vic, let us know if you want to jump up and let us know. There might be some people from Cake. I don't want to steal from MoneroCon either, but if there's people on the Cake team that can attend, that would be fantastic. Obviously, they'd be welcome to talk, be on panels, whatever. They would love to have Cake there as well. And I got to say, I mean, it's also a perfect testing ground, just like MoneroTopia is, I believe, a great testing ground for these products, for Cake Wallet, for Edge, for whatever Monero, my Monero, Monero Uju. PorcFest is like the ultimate testing ground because you have all the, tons of different kind of like wallet. You have like people that were early into, Dash are there, right? So like they're using whatever, they're more of like edge wallet people or Exelix people, right? You have like kind of all these like competing wallets there, and you have all these vendors accepting in real time. So it's a great place as a wallet developer, app developer to come and see your product being used, tested, getting feedback, seeing it compared to the other ones, which ones are working best in real time. And obviously Cake does a really good job out in the wild. It does, considering it's, a full blockchain sync. And we'll do the Nodo thing. We'll do we'll get we'll make that part of our budget. We can get the satellite dish, the Starlink. Get one, at least one, maybe two of those, right, Aaron? What do you think? I know a lot of other people set up Starlinks, but I think we should do that. I don't know if does our tent come with like better internet than others? Do we?
I don't think our tent comes with much anything. I think we're pretty much on our own from that perspective. But yeah, we can get a Starlink, and then we maybe can get a couple Starlinks so that people will want to come hang out with us because we've got where the internet access is, and we've got
we'll have the Nodos. I'll bring the Nodos running off of them, and then we'll have anybody, we'll put the Starlinks out towards the Agora area so people could access in the Agora. They could access the Starlink just like we had at MoneroTopia. So they'd be getting benefiting from getting the Wi-Fi plus accessing the Nodo via Cake Wallet. So now the vendors and the attendees will be seamlessly using Monero at the conference in the best way possible. So yeah, very excited about all that.
So I think it's going to be honestly, I think this is going to be the biggest onboarding event, and then we'll broadcast from there too. I mean, you've got your show, I've got my podcast. Where I'm sure we're going to be doing a ton of interviews from there and generating just a lot of content, and so. I couldn't be more excited about it. And when this opportunity came up, I mean, in part, they only have 2 tents, and I put my name in it without any kind of idea of exactly what we were going to do. But I actually reached out to the PorcFest guys and said, hey, listen. At first, I was going to try to get them to do could we add a 3rd tent? And then we were fortunate enough to be able to get the main tent. And so I'm like, okay, this is just going to be huge. So this is the one event I'm putting. I do events all the time, which is why I'm in Mexico, but I'm putting more of my effort into this event than anything. I think this is going to be a watershed moment for us.
For sure, man. Couldn't agree more. Very excited. It's going to come fast. And it's in my mind, it's much easier to throw than MoneroTopia and can be just as big and impactful, right? Because we have the benefit of going off of PorcFest, right? So people are already thousands of people are already converging there, so we're benefiting off of that. Basically, already have the venue. We don't have to worry about selling tickets. People, you just go and get your PorcFest tickets and you show up. So yeah, the rest is up to you guys. Email us MoneroTopia@protonmail.com if you want to be a speaker. If you want to come sell stuff for Monero at PorcFest, I mean, you should be able to just figure that out on your own. You basically have to just go get a place at a stand at PorcFest. If you want to sponsor, email. If you want to be one of the main stage sponsors, we'll have a couple of them so we can cover all our costs. Or if you want to volunteer and help us run this event at PorcFest. You could help with onboarding people onto Cake Wallet using the Nodo. You could help with actually running the conference itself, giving out pamphlets about Monero, helping us with AV and whatever it may be. So if you want to work in the MoneroTopia tent at PorcFest, volunteer, hit us up. MoneroTopia@protonmail.com, and yeah. We'll open to any collaborations, people that want to come and present something, privacy tech projects. You want to come and talk about your privacy tech project, hit us up. Obviously, we're not trying not to give the stage to scams, right? Like we want honest projects, open source, things that are related to, it doesn't have to be 100% Monero, related to these ideas of digital cash, building out a digital cash circular economy. You're welcome to reach out to us as a speaker. Aaron, any other info we should get out there?
No, I would just say, yeah, reach out, send an email, or you can also reach out to me if you have any questions about this. But again, if you've ever been on the fence about this, or if you've been in the past, you're like, I'm not sure if I want to go again. This is going to be a legendary event, and it's going to be a legendary event because there's a lot of momentum. I think that I truly believe that Ross being free is a huge catalyst for this. So there's going to be a big celebratory aspect. Usually, PorcFest is we're still fighting. We're still fighting for a lot of our political prisoners and friends, but we actually have some things to celebrate this time around. And the Free State Project is actually doing really well. Also, I mean, I will say that separately, if depending upon where you live in the world, if you're looking at, if you don't like the amount of tyranny that you have, I recommend one other aspect about PorcFest is you can meet other Free Staters, and there are talks. I mean, again, there are hundreds of talks about a variety of different topics, but if you're interested in considering moving to New Hampshire and being part of the Free State Project, you can learn about that as well. There's a lot of discussions and a lot of interaction with people, and a lot of big wins for the Free State Project. I mean, our majority leader of the state house is a friend of mine, Jason Osborne, who we helped get elected like 10 years ago. He's now the majority leader. In fact, I think Free Staters represent about 100 people out of the 400-person state house. So a lot of good stuff going on in New Hampshire as well. So this is going to be, educational. It's going to be onboarding people. It's going to be celebratory. So I can't recommend it enough.
Ellenver tipped 50 cents. 2025 PorcFest is going to be wild. Can't wait to be there. 100%. 100%. I mean, you think Ross will attend? Obviously, he it might be kind of the last thing on his, he might just be trying to stay off the radar, right? Just hanging with his family, I'm sure. But I don't know.
I mean, I haven't asked because
his mother was there last year and hanging out with us at the Monero tent. My daughter was hanging out with her. They're obviously they're very much, like you said, big PorcFest people, and I know I think they owe a lot of gratitude to people like you and others at PorcFest that were fighting for Ross every day. So there were
a lot of others. So yeah, I've already spoken with Lynn. In fact, the first thing that I did, when I wanted to try to help out with Roger was reach out to Lynn. So I've been talking to Lynn quite a bit. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a pretty good shot that Lynn and or Ross will be there. And people like Carla Garrick, I mean, I can even go into how much, people from the Free State Project attended Ross's trials, and appeals and every aspect of that. In addition to, I think Lynn has been there literally every year for 10 years. And even at PorcFest 2 years ago, when Vivek was there and RFK was there, I know a big part of that was to get both of them on the record at PorcFest to come out and saying they would commute or pardon Ross's sentence. So I certainly hope that she's there, but no obligation. But I wouldn't be surprised. I think we've got a really good shot. And so I'm very excited about that. And what a relief and what a fight that has been for Lynn and everybody that's worked on it.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. She must. She's on cloud nine, and this is her her family here. The PorcFest people. These are all the people that were passionately behind the cause with her. Yep. I missed that year, man, because I was at MoneroCon in Prague. I was like, guys, why are you doing this at the same time as PorcFest? So finally this year, I'm like, all right, you're gonna do the same time as PorcFest. I'm going to because I have the baby too. I can't really make it over to Europe, so this makes sense for all these right reasons. And now I'm seeing the positive in the overlap here. It doesn't have to be a negative. So there'll be the biggest Monero event of the year is going to be PorcFest, MoneroTopia PorcFest, taking place at the same time as MoneroCon on the other side of the world. So it's actually going to be a positive. If you can't make it over to Europe, come on over here in the U.S. A lot of people there's a lot of Monero people that don't leave the U.S. Don't have, I don't know, that they don't they never got passports and stuff. I've come across quite a few people that oh, I can't leave the U.S. Well, here's your chance. You could drive in from the other side of the country, wherever you are, make your way to Pork Fest. It's going to be well worth it.
Yeah, and if you've never been to MoneroTopia was probably my favorite event last year. I mean, I had an absolute blast. So thank you for inviting me. I didn't know what to expect, and I will tell you, just great conversations, phenomenal people, and what a vibe. And actually, Mexico City, where I am right now, it is actually a fantastic place to have an event.
Oh yeah, it's the location is great too, because it's a hub, right? It's a global hub. People can come in from anywhere. Come in from Russia, come in wherever. You don't have to worry about getting into the U.S. So excited for that too. That's gonna come fast too. It's a year away, but now that we're doing this event, and then right after, it's gonna creep up on us fast. So yeah, guys, obviously if you want to attend that, buy tickets to that now too. That really helps. We put up the super early VIPs. That really helps us, gives us momentum, and we're hoping that will be the biggest and best one yet. Obviously, because we have a good network now in Mexico City. We could get all the vendors to attend, and we're going to be doing it in February, which we think is good timing because it's right before Narco Poco. People can come to MoneroTopia first, head over to Narco Poco. You also have Derek Bros' event, which will be right before ours. So if you're like really hardcore, you go to all three or whatever. So that should be super cool. And Aaron, very much hoping that you'll be able to come next year. Obviously, that'll be. I know it's far away, but hopefully.
Oh yeah, no, I'd love to. Okay. I will absolutely make sure I'm there.
Let me grab some of these super chats. Neil has tipped $12.35. Wow, very generous. Privacy and anonymity are both a human right. It does not need to be justified. It needs to be put into practice unapologetically. Simply start to use Tor, use Monero, use Havino, use Darknet Lantern, use XMR Bazaar. Make it normal by participating in it. I think this was in reaction to us talking about these executive orders and trying to get the information out there that it's perfectly legal to use Monero. Obviously, Neil's saying, fuck the state. The whole idea is to ignore them, build our own ecosystem. Couldn't agree more. People know my take. I think a two-pronged approach, but ultimately, yes, this is how we truly win. We just opt out, ignore the state, ignore the powers that be, and just start living among each other peer to peer. So couldn't agree with you more, Nihilist, and we'll obviously continue to drive home that message all the time. I got one other one here. Anon tip 50 cents. I don't know what this guy's really saying to you, Aaron, here. Why would anyone be proud to be British? It is a nation of rent boys and illegal immigrants. Aaron Day. I'm not an illegal immigrant, so I need to ask, are rent boys welcome at Pork Fest? I don't know. Somebody's trying to give you a hard time on some issue here. I don't know if you if you have a response to that.
I don't know what I was responding to something else, and so I think that was taken a little out of context.
It's a super chat. I got to bring him up, man. I bring him up. And then we had to leave here. Pork Fest is going to be wild. Can't wait to be there. 100%. Aaron, man, thank you so much. If you want to stick around, obviously you're more than welcome to. We'll continue on with our marathon Saturday morning show. Otherwise, we'll be in touch, man, and I'm sure you'll be jumping on again as we get closer to the event. And I'll be working with you offline, trying to figure out what we need to do. But yeah, guys, please reach out if you do want to go. If you're going, you want to help out, you want to volunteer. MoneroTopia, protonmail.com. If you want to help out with AV, if you want to come bring AV equipment, if you want to help run the AV, we have somebody else that's going to help do it, that knows like the know-how of how to do it. Now we need the equipment. We don't need any crazy setup. But just like mics, a couple of mics for the main stage, and we'll stream it through StreamYard. So we need a good one or two laptops. So we have a stage laptop and a laptop to run the stream.
And by the way, I've got a lot of this stuff already. I've got a portable PA system that I use for the workshops, and I've got a projector and a couple computers. So that's the good news about doing all this stuff is we've got a good base case, and we'll have to figure out how we want to lay it out, right? There's like I actually like the way Brownstone does it. Like Jeffrey made it kind of like a lounge.
Beautiful.
Oh my God. But to be honest with you, I don't know what where they rent that stuff or what all is going on with that, so we can kind of drill into that. And whatever, we'll have a call with the Pork Fest organizers and find out. It's been a long time since I was the chair of the FSP for a while, and was more involved with the events, but it's been so long ago that like it's completely different now. So I'm starting anew.
Yes. No, it's going to be, and I'll just say again too, guys, if there's a sponsor out there listening, you want to sponsor, we do need the sponsors because as I'm talking to Aaron here, I'm realizing that, the budget, this is going to come with a little bit of a budget. We have to get this big tent. It's a package that we get through PorkFest. We'll have to handle out the AV and there's no other revenue, right? We're not selling tickets for this. So hopefully we get a fully, a couple of more sponsors on board alongside Cake Wallet, and we'll have everything fully covered. Monero Master tipped $1. Could totally help promote MoneroTopia. This week I've reached out over 10,000 people and direct them to Monero while capturing over 100 emails. Pretty sure I'm the only pro digital marketer. Dude, please say no more. I actually saw your Reddit post this morning. I think I threw it in the news. If not, we should throw it in the news. Monero Master recently ran a little ad campaign on his own, driving people to kind of come and sign up for a newsletter, learn about Monero, and he was quite successful with it. So yes, and as I was reading that, I was thinking, would love to have you help us advertise various things, MoneroTopia conference, XMR Bazaar. So yes, let's be in touch, Monero Master. I think you're doing fantastic work. Aaron, thank you so much, man.
Thanks.
We will move on with the show.
All right.
Cheers,
Thanks, Aaron,
buddy.
for coming on.
We'll be in touch.